The context of the session is Engineering Capability Portal. We want folks just to, give folks an overview of what the Engineering Capability Portal is, what's in it, how you can leverage it for your Know and Grow plans, but then most importantly, how this ties to your talent profile.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Shakia. Good morning, everybody. So I think, thanks, Shakia, for the introduction. I think actually the topic is quite fitting with the Personal Development Day, right? So this is what we to create your capability plan.
It should be shipped out today or tomorrow. That was yesterday. All right. So you should see that shortly.
Hey, Eric, mute your line.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's quickly start with the objective. The engineering.
I think we're in good shape. Again, appreciate the help and the resources.
Can you check who?
Yeah.
I think maybe you can mute it.
Yes.
Because they're all coming unmuted. Mine is coming unmuted, and I didn't touch anything. I'm not sure if there's something in the system that's unmuting.
Okay. No, so I just muted Eric. So.
Okay. Okay. So, yeah, the objective today, let me get back in PPT mode, is basically to remind people about this community about the engineering portal and some of the tools. This actually should have been deployed maybe a year and a half ago. There were some within engineering by BU, and the material should have been deployed, but it was deployed. I don't know how well it was. I don't know how well it was adopted. So today is really just a refresher of what exists and how you might want to use it. And, talking to Shakia, the way we kind of came up with this topic is that I just shared an example of how I had worked with a couple people I mentor who had some questions about, capability building and how to build a Know and Grow plan or something like this. And so I had kind of put together some job aids on how to do it, or at least my perspective. Basically, I just turned these job aids into a PPT today to kind of just equip you with some tools that either you can use for yourself, or if you are a manager of others, then you can make sure you share this message to help them build a proper capability plan, right? So again, the key ways out of this message will just be understanding the tools, basically that represent you and your work. It's really, again, the conversation is probably focused more at Band 1, Band 2, but Band 3s can reapply. A better understanding of the work impact your career. And then the final expectation is that our AA engineering network will actually lead the use of these tools. And we'll talk a little bit more about that later. But first, let me take one moment and introduce myself. Shakia mentioned I'm Kevin Martin. I'm in baby care engineering, and I've been with the company almost 17 years now. It'll be 17 years this June when I showed up, and me and Shakia were in the same office. So we've been at this for quite a while now. I always it's real easy to date myself because my daughter is getting bigger and bigger, so that's my family in the right-hand corner. And this picture is actually quite old, but my daughter is actually much taller than my wife now. But currently, in Tianjin, China, at our Xuqing plant, and I've been here for 4 years in Asia, and my responsibility is in baby care is leading engineering for our flagship, our mid-tier business, which is worth over $1 billion in Asia. So I've been doing that for 4 years, 4 years now. Before that, I was in Cincinnati in development organization, basically working for Jackie Parker. And before that, I had a stint also in Germany. But originally, I started my career as a power controls and information systems engineer in Cincinnati. So just real quick, I just wanted to share my local team on the ground in China, and I just wanted to use this picture to set the backdrop for capability, right? So, one of my key responsibilities in coming to Asia is actually to build capability in the local organization, right? So I think everyone knows our business in Asia is young, it's growing fast, and one of the key challenges is getting the right talent developed on the ground. So I think, many people, more of the experienced veterans who are shipped here, they probably spend quite a bit of time talking about and giving trainings on capability building. So I happen to be the BU SPOC for capability building engineering in Asia as well. So that's why I've probably spent a lot of time in the past couple years thinking about what is capability, trying to come up, package it, and deploy it in a way that's most impactful and powerful. So today I'm just going to share some of the tools in general, and then, but also some of the some other things to consider for your career. A little bit about me. Also, by the way, I think this is connected remotely, so it's I can't look you all in the eyes and judge facial expressions or whatnot. So what I would say is feel free to interrupt me in this presentation if you have a question. No need to wait until the end. So let's make this very tailored for you. So feel free to interrupt me along the way. Okay, so today I just want to talk about real quick why this message is how we should be being represented to leadership. I'll talk a little bit about this, and I can share practiced in Asia, but I think this is where we would leverage the local community to the local leadership to maybe calibrate on how it's really happening on the ground in North America. And then this last point about what can you do now to drive your ZMOD. I'll explain that in a second. So, obviously, I think we're mostly connected by computer and desk today, not collected in one room. So, show of hands doesn't really make sense. No need to raise your hand, but I'll ask the question anyway. How many people have ever Googled themselves, right? And I assume maybe in the younger generation, it's probably more than 75% or something like this. But so just for the fun of it, I Googled myself recently, and I learned that I'm actually much younger, much taller, and much richer than I realized. But quite haven't seen any of this yet. But so just I use that as a teaser to get into the real crux of the matter, which is around this zero moment of truth, right? And so I think for those a little bit older, you may remember AG introduced this concept to us, which was FMOT and SMOT, right? Which is the first moment of truth and the second moment of truth. So the first moment of truth is when you basically walk into a store and you see the product, right? And you decide at that moment, is this product, this first moment of truth is whether or not this brand is going to live up to the promise, right? That you have received about it so far. And then the second moment is actually when you take the product home and you use it, right? So this is the second moment of whether or not it lives up to its promise, right? And later this concept evolved to include the zero moment of truth, right? So I'm sure most people are probably familiar with this, but the zero moment of truth is actually when you start your digital search for this product, right? So how is it communicated? What's available? Is it what's accessible, right? And so the purpose of the presentation today is really to sort of translate what is your own personal zero moment of truth, right? And that's why I think this message should be relevant, and hopefully we'll get some tools developed to help you with your own zero moment of truth, right? So, I mean, let's just start real simply. You know, why is this 0 moment of truth for you important? And really, it all basically goes back to PI, right? I think everyone is extremely familiar with the PI model: performance, image, and exposure. And so, yeah, I basically started asking the question: what is my digital image, right? So if I'm an employee with a company and someone wants to know more about me, right? Today I have a digital footprint, right? And people can search for me. So what would they find, you know, when they search for me? Yeah, I don't think they're going to find the NBA player with $24 million, but what's out there about me? And so really the why behind this whole PPT is just to remind people that, you know, we are in a digital connected age today, and let's use the tools to make sure we've done the right investment in our personal digital profile, okay? So we all know today that the world is very different, you know, than it was 17 years ago when Shakir and I were new hires, right? So we've had basically an explosion in digital technologies, and also with the dawn of the internet age, right? It's a hyper-connected environment, right? So computing power has gotten, you know, twice as powerful every 2 years, and half the size every 2 years, and everyone is connected and everyone is always on. Phone, you know, you have access to all of this digital information 24/7, right? So that's the landscape, right? External. And we also have social media, right? Of course, most of you are probably on Facebook or Twitter or LinkedIn at home. But you know, today I just wanted to pose the question, you know, what does your digital footprint look like at work, right? Or do you even have a digital footprint? And again, the purpose is for us to get some tools in order to basically to participate, right, and not be left behind. So my real simple message for this organization really is let's challenge ourselves to be early adopters, right, of digital tools at work, right? And I have a little model on the lower right-hand corner, which is this law of diffusion of innovation, which basically says technology or innovation follows a bell curve, right? And you know, in the very beginning, you have some people who innovate. You also have this concept of early adopters, and these are the people who are, you know, basically on the new thing, you know, before it becomes mainstream, right? And maybe there's some sacrifice involved, but they are ahead of the curve, right? And so my challenge to this organization is, you know, let's try to work with the mindset of the mentality that we want to be early adopters of digital tools, okay? All right. So that's sort of the why behind the presentation. I just wanted to take one moment, again, before we get into the details and talk a little bit about how. And I'll use my experience in Asia right now, but I think what would be cool in the future if you have discussions is maybe from the local leadership to explain how some of these things are happening on the ground. And what I wanted to just briefly talk about was talent councils, okay? And let me basically explain, maybe for those who might not know, when we developed and deployed One PS. But we basically created talent councils, which is exactly as the name implies, right? It's a council of members who need to manage the talent within the company. Okay, so in general, there should basically be four major responsibilities, right? First one is sort of to assess and calibrate, you know, who are the top talent, right? Who are, and then second one is to develop this pipeline and so advancement and promotion plan. And again, these talent councils are multi-BU, right? And they are a a council, right? So you can imagine, you know, this is not necessarily a democracy, right? But, you know, now the power of the decision making has kind of moved outside of the BU, at least in theory, and moved into this general council. Okay. Another responsibility is supposed to be the support of the diversity and affinity groups, and then the last point is generic succession planning. Okay. Talent councils are typically AD and above for the Band 1s and Band 3s, right? And of course, Director and VP level for Band 4 and Band 5. In Asia, actually, we have the Band 1s and Band 2s are managed via a Band 3 Talent Council. So I actually sit on the Talent Council, actually only, it's done by our region. So I sit in the Band 3 Talent Council for where we discuss all of the Band 1-2s within China. We discuss the promotion pipeline. And so I've got some experience about, how the conversation happens, right? How it's supposed to happen and then what really happens, right? And, I just wanted to share one of that we're supposed to use this mycareer.pg.com, right? So this digital profile for each individual, right? So I assume, again, all of this is in use and deployed, and everyone's using .com, but I go back to the purpose of this presentation, which is really around, are we leading it, are we leveraging it? And I just one small example, again, when I work with my direct reports or whatnot, and we talk about, what they want to do for their next assignment or something like this, and they may tell me doing this. And, I quickly go check, what's in their My Career portfolio, and it's blank. Nothing's written, nothing is, there's no picture of the individual, they haven't invested in it. And when I go to the Talent Council meeting, we created a standing rule, and again, I don't know how it's being deployed in North America, but we created the standing rule here where we will only work from the mycareer.pg.com data, right? So for my people, I need to export their profile, and when I represent them or talk, it's for, if they update digital footprint, they're going to be fully represented, right? So this is really the crux of why I wanted to talk about the career portal as a tool to represent you to the Talent Council, right? And chat to make sure that our digital footprint, is as sexy as it can be, And so today I'll just go over some of the tools that exist that you can use to build the best profile. Yeah. Okay, so remember, I think you can think of mycareer.pg.com as your digital CV or your digital, and it's supposed to capture your interest, and your capability. There's a lot of information in it, but I think it's fair to say you can kind of summarize it, what I want to do and what I'm capable of doing, right? So again, I think most people have probably seen this, so I'll go through it a little quickly. If not, you can, raise your hand and ask questions, but talk about in the mycareer.pg.com profile specifically is around the experience and the skills and the qualifications, right? And I've got I've got my actual portal up. Right, so we can navigate in my own, and I can quickly, just as an share, some of my own experiences, whatnot. And what I actually wanted to talk about was this section here, which is around my skills, right? And my real message is to challenge everyone to make sure that this skills page is not only up to date, right, but that we have an active plan, right, with things like Know and Grow Plan, and that we challenge ourselves to develop the proper proficiency in these skills. Okay, so that's really the root of what I wanted to get to today. So let me quickly jump back. Okay, so, you know, I leave this simple message, you know, to the organization. You know, what do you want to be known for in engineering, right? And what would make your digital CV stand out, right? And also, what is my engineering equity, right? And again, I'm not here to answer those for anybody. This is really just a challenge for all of us to think about how we want to grow and how we want to be seen, right? What is our image, right? And but I think some tools along the way, I would clearly start with what is our own engineering equity, right? And I think you know, this was developed quite a few years ago and deployed, but I would probably argue, you know, it's very well visited and probably not very well reinforced, right? But you know, a few months ago, we had the pleasure of having Bruno DeVere, our engineering VP, visit Teaching Plant, and I was able to have, I think, a pretty good conversation with him about, you know, engineering in P&G and what is our equity. And so it was a reminder for me and try to understand from Bruno's perspective, how does he see engineering and what does he expect from each of us, right? So now let's talk to the matter, which is, you know, what are these tools that we can use in order to drive this capability in our whole digital CV, our digital footprint, right? But again, I want to start with a simple question to put it in perspective. You know, I think we've probably done some capability trainings before. We talked about, I'm sure someone's mentioned before, the elevator speech, right? How many of you have an elevator speech, which is the, you know, if you were to happen to step into an elevator and the CEO of the company steps in with you, or the president of your BU, would you have a proper speech ready to go to be able to introduce yourself, right? What kind of key facts or key message deliver in a short amount of time to someone with some power to do something about it, right? But for the sake of this conversation about tools, another question to you, which is, you know, would your speech work outside of a P&G elevator, right? So if the CEO from a different company stepped into the elevator with you, would you be able to communicate to him in a way, him or her, in a way that they could understand, right? And so this is just a reminder or a challenge when we think about our elevator speech, or when we think about a real simple check is our language internally focused or is it externally focused, okay? And I think all of us default, you know, to the latter of some internal focus. Maybe we use words or phrases that are internal to our business unit, right? And maybe when you're looking for the next role and you want to move to a different BU, maybe that language just doesn't translate well, right? So the challenge really is to make sure you have an external focus about who you are and what you can be, right? And even inside the company, you know, the one of the initial actions of the engineering portal and these tools try to get to a common language inside engineering, right? About what are capabilities, what are tools. And well, for the sake of time, I'm not going to go too much into detail, but what I will share is, you know, again, if I were to step out into the portal itself, there are links here that talk about the language of capability, right? And so, again, what I would do is I just challenge everyone to go and review this material. Make sure you understand the language of capability. Again, still within P&G, but it's kind of designed to make sure that you can have a proper conversation from BU to BU, right? And also, if you're a leader in engineering, I would ask you to reiterate, this language of engineering. So what is capability? What's the definition of a function? What is a mastery area, or what is a competency area, right? So this is some of the language that was created so that we could have a proper conversation within engineering about skills and capabilities, okay? So the very first topic, again, is around getting to a common language for engineering, okay? The second thing I just wanted to share with you was what was agreed and what was deployed is this area around common engineering skills. And again, I hope this is not new to anybody, but they're a group basically working out of CETL, the capability knowledge team, settled on what they call mastery areas inside engineering. Now this same structure exists all over PS, right? With the whole My Career system. But engineering was actually a little bit late to the party in defining, what our mastery areas are, what our competency areas are, about a year and a half later versus the other functions. But it exists now, right? And we should be aware of it. And this is the language we should use when we talk about building our capability, right? So we basically identified, 15 mastery areas. And I mentioned earlier in my bio that I started a P&S engineer, right? And it was written on my business card, and I was very proud, right? But if someone walked up to me and said, Kevin, what do you do for P&G? Maybe in the first 2 years or something, it was not so easy for me to clearly and succinctly communicate, what my role and responsibilities were, right? Net, the company has invested in trying to use this language, right? So now we talk about P&S as a mastery area. And within that mastery area, we've identified of competency areas, okay? So process control, machine control. When they don't fit under clean bucket, we can just easily call it common technologies, like machine automation, right? So if I look at, machine control, again, that's a broad area. Again, I can break that down into skill blocks, right? Machine vision, machine control, machine safety, things like this. And then down further into actual skills, okay? So this is the language and the structure that the company has already agreed to for in engineering. And so what I would say, band ones and band twos, when you think about the work you're doing, how does it fit in this structure, right? And then also, when you think about, who you want to become, right? Whether you want to become yes, right? I think I overheard a conversation earlier when we were first calling in about P&S technology, right? And so when you think about P&S, can you be more specific, right? Are you advanced level or intermediate level in machine control, right? And are you working on machine vision? Something of this nature, right? So this is the language of that the company has settled on, right? Now we need to work on actually developing that capability. And there's another tool inside the portal. I won't go back out into the web page, but it's in the same location. But that tool is basically the learning map, okay? And so for each of those mastery areas that I showed, there's also a learning map that accompanies mastery area that you can use to outline what training you need or what experiences you need in order to consider yourself, basic or proficient in this mastery area, or intermediate or advanced, okay? And so you can see, okay, this is an outdated one that I downloaded earlier, but the effort in creating this portal has been to populate for the company what do we mean when we say, intermediate level of PLC technology, right? So I could say I worked in baby care for 17 years, and I could say I'm an expert at PLC technology. I might feel that way, right? But have I ever really been certified by anyone, right? And so if I move from baby to fabric and home care, maybe I get evaluated differently. So getting to this common language and now this common learning map, we have a way where we can assess each other. And so, now that we have in place, again, my challenge to everyone is to use these tools to develop a very specific capability plan and to try to develop some certification levels that would be attractive. Yeah. Again, think about what is CV or on your digital resume, and you can use this information in order to guide your development. Now, there's one thing I actually wanted to point out. This is the PCNS common skill. And look who the owner is, right? It's our very own Roland Joseph, right? So, I would argue, the AALN is leading some of these, right? So to become the owner of this system, Joseph already had to have been recognized as an expert level by the company. And only, the expert levels should be certifying others as advanced or expert, right? So I just point this out to say that, to challenge ourselves, are we even using our own network, right? Taking advantage to grow and develop our skills. If you have a new IS engineer or something like this, have we even connected them? Are they connected with Joseph, right? And can Joseph give insight, Roland Joseph give insight on, what experiences they need, what trainings do they need, right? So this is a real simple reminder, right? This is the language, this is the structure and the format. But most importantly, are we leveraging our own internal network towards advance, right? Clearly, if you have a PCNS engineer in the Band 1, Band 2 network, and they have interest in, growing into intermediate level or advanced level for some, they should be connected, right? Okay. So again, that's the general, that's the second tool that I really wanted to share in this presentation. It's the learning map. So next, I just wanted to quickly talk about how you would put all of this together and bring it back home, right, to my career, right? So again, getting to the common language about engineering skills, right? This is something the tool can offer. So I would challenge everyone to go back and think about, in your area of work, what type of skills, engineering skills, do you need in order to perform your job? And actually, if you're new to the company, or you just transferred from another discipline or something like this, there are actually tools on the engineering portal. I chose not to that you can download, and you can just fill in some check boxes about what type of work you're doing and where you're doing it, and it will automatically generate a list of skills that are recommended that you consider. All right, and now it is on design, it'll be a big list, but the expectation is that you can take this skills wizard to your manager and then align with your manager what you need to be focused on, right? And I think I go back to, I started the presentation with this. This was all born out of some mentoring that I was doing with a young individual in the U.S. And it's, Kevin, how do I think about what type of skills do I want to have? And I introduced the skills wizard, and they were able to use this to identify which learning maps that they would like to work on and what level of certification, right? So they were able to understand what language the company is using to define what this person's interest is and what their capabilities are, right? And that's all we really want to get out of this today. Again, you think of your interest, your capability, how do we use the right language within P&G, the agreed upon language, and use these tools in order to develop that plan. So I was able to introduce that wizard to the individual, show them the learning maps, and then, of course, we were able to document all of this in their Know and Grow plan, right? And so they said, hey, I'm interested in this mastery area, this type of competency. I think I want to make it to intermediate level or advanced level on this time frame, and now I understand what are the tasks I need to do to get there, and who do I need in order to sign off, right? And as the individual does that, and as they accomplish the task on their Know and Grow plan, finally they can go back to mycareer.pg.com and go back to their career, talent profile, and they can actually, load their completed learning map and check the skill off, right? So there is a function in My Career where there's a rule of thumb, right? Anybody could pretty much load basic or intermediate, but things like advanced or expert, they need to be approved by your manager or by the company expert, right? So by having the proper learning map, having completed all of the tasks, you can easily share the supporting documentation to the approver, and now you can load the skill into your profile, right? And now you can use this profile as your argument, right? Or those can argue for you, about why you should be considered for a particular role, okay? And so again, I think to bring it back, there was a one email chain that flew around where RIA was looking for a project manager. There was an opportunity, I think, an expat assignment in Europe, and she was looking very, very quickly for a project manager. But there was a one key requirement in the note. I think she was looking for advanced project management certification, right? And so again, this is a real simple reminder. A project manager for 17 years or something like this, right? But if I never took the time to actually get my own proper certification, then I don't have that on my digital CV, right? And I can of course export my talent profile and share it, but if it's not there, I run the risk of being excluded, right? Never even making it to the conversation, right? So this is the real root of this presentation, right? It's about capability, but what I wanted to make sure is that we not only do it in a just some empirical fashion and through oval means, actually recognize the reality of the situation, the social media aspects of the world, and that we actually, as the AA community, early adopt these tools and put ourselves in the best position to be represented properly at the table, right? So all of this is really just about, getting the fair shot, right? So now the platform is defined, the language is defined, the learning maps are defined, right? And open and available to all. And so the real key message is, are we early adopters of these tools and technologies and putting ourselves in the best position to be represented? Okay, so Shakia, that was the key message that I wanted to convey. I just showed some examples of the portal itself and some of the tools that you can use in order to build your digital CV. But I didn't want to go into too much actual detail, but it's really around the message why it's important. So are there any questions on the audience I could take, anything specific about the actual use of the tools or actually anything, right?